Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. Welcome to my first ever series ranking video here on this channel for any kind of movie series I talk about. Today we're going to be talking about the Silent Night, Deadly Night films, and of course the original came out in 1984. We've had 6 films in this whole franchise at this current point in 2021, borderline 2022. Christmas is in like 3 days, 4 days, 3 days? Something like that. I can't count. I didn't bring you here to talk about math. I brought you here to talk about Christmas horror films. Anyway, here's my collection of these. Of course, yes, this is a VHS tape that I got from Hollywood Video when they went out of, well, not when they went out of business, but when they stopped selling VHS tapes, they got rid of all their collections. I have tons of Dragon Ball Z videotapes and Goosebumps videotapes and stuff that I got from there at that time. This is the Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, which is the first one I ever watched on that VHS tape back in the day. I've owned it forever. You know, this box set right here has the first and second film. Of course, the original is the unrated. That's the only version I've ever seen. So when it comes to this ranking, I'm only talking about the unrated original film. And then I have parts 3, 4, and 5 in this little box set, whatever you want to call it, in that. And then I recently got the remake in the mail. So I have that. I just reviewed Silent Night, the remake, today, right before this video, in case you want to check that out. And, yeah, so we're going to do a ranking on all 6 of the films. Now, the way I typically talk about movies, I don't just include how well made it is. I do consider that a factor as a critic, whether it be of books or movies or anything like that. I typically consider myself more not so much a critic, but just a fan. How do I rank them as a fan? From least enjoyable, least well made, and whatever, to most enjoyable, in my opinion, how I look at it, how I feel about it. There's probably going to be some anger coming out of this comment section, you'll probably see. I don't know. I'm not sure what the Silent Night, Deadly Night community is like, but I'm not the biggest fan of this franchise, number one. I think there's quite a few misses in here. I think the original, the 1984 Silent Night, Deadly Night is not the most special thing ever. It has some great moments in here, some great classical moments, but it's not overall my favorite thing ever. Again, I've only seen the unrated cut. The original cut is like on Tubi and stuff, and I've never watched it. I don't really need to, I don't think. I don't know. The series isn't that special to me. There's some entries in here that I genuinely love, some that I think are experimental and weird in a cool way, and almost like a David Lynchian type of way. There are some that fail miserably because of the kind of continuation they try to do. At some point, the series just gives up. Just starts doing its own thing. And it's interesting to see how the series just... It's such an uneven series, you know, and it's a sad thing. I know a lot of people would have wanted me to cover probably the Black Christmas movies for Christmas time. I was very tight on my schedule this year. I didn't really have a whole lot of time to do stuff like that. So I hope to get kind of caught up for next year, maybe do some, the Jack Frost films, you know, the killer ones, not the Michael Keaton one. You know, different things like that for next Christmas. I'm not really sure yet, but we'll see at that point next year, God willing. Maybe I'll do some reviews for some things like that. Maybe Krampus. I kind of wanted to do Krampus this year. I still might. I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot of free time. I'm off, you know, after tonight I have like a half night at work, and then after tonight I'll have a lot of free time. But I have like 5 other Christmas movies I want to watch, like regular Christmas movies that I want to enjoy. And then you have offshoots too, like The Shining and Storm of the Century, that are kind of wintertime movies that would be great to review for the channel for this time of the year. But anyway, getting to my actual ranking list, we have 6 films here, like I said. We have everything from the 1984 film all the way to the 1991 fifth entry. Then we have the 2012 remake. Yes, there's a lot to talk about here. So starting at the bottom, at number 6, my pick for number 6 is what I consider the worst film of the series, obviously. But just in general, the execution of it, how boring it is, everything. It's a giant mess of a flick. My number 6 pick on my list, the worst of the worst for me, is Part 3, Better Watch Out. Better Watch Out is almost unwatchable. It's dull. It has almost nothing in it that interests me. I don't even remember what my ranking was for this the other week when I reviewed it. It is a bad movie. It is a bad, bad movie, and it's picking up after Part 2. So it's technically connected to Part 1 and Part 2 in its own way. But everything from how misused poor Bill Moseley is. Bill Moseley from Devil's Rejects is playing the killer in here, and they wasted him. He sucks in this movie. It's not his fault. It's the terrible script and everything. Of course, this is the first film to go straight to video after Part 2. The rest of the sequels from this point on, including the remake, all went straight to video, and it shows. It shows. It has a little bit more budget than some of them, but not the kind of creative push that it needed. Bad choices all around. Part 3 is a fucking mess. It's horrible. I hate it. Anyway, moving up to spot number 5 on my list. That would be Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. This has Part 1 and Part 2 in it. But Part 2, yes, Part 2. Good God Almighty. The one thing everybody on the internet knows is the garbage day meme about a fellow with eyebrows that moves up and down. Very muscular fellow, very handsome fellow, saying garbage day and shooting some guy with a trash can in front of him. That would be from this film. It's iconic and it's horrible all in one go. It's a mess of a film. Most of this movie is a recap of the original film. And it shoots itself in the foot for that very reason. It's the parts that are new film, I really genuinely enjoy. But literally every time I watch this movie, I skip all of the recap stuff because it's like 40 minutes of the movie. You know, for an hour and a half long flick, 40 minutes or 50 minutes even, of this flick are focused around just clips from the original movie. I hate when TV shows do clips. Malcolm in the Middle had a clip episode. It's stupid. Why would you do that? I know it's because you're running low on material, you have a writer's strike or anything like that. I know that happens. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not saying it doesn't affect things either. All I'm saying is no one wants to watch that garbage. This one has an issue with execution. It has an issue with some very goofy things, but it's also kind of watchable for those really silly, over-the-top, goofy things that I enjoy about it. It's not a good movie. It's quite a bad movie. But it has some things in here I can at least laugh at, which makes it more entertaining in my opinion. Because if I can make fun of something or someone, then I typically have a good time, no matter what I'm doing or where I'm at. But anyway, that's my number 5 pick. My pick for number 4 is actually number 4. Yes, The Initiation. Initiation was a very weird art house movie. I'm very convinced this was a movie that was not supposed to be a part of this franchise and that it eventually became that. Initiation isn't even like a really dedicated to Christmas time movie. It is a Christmas movie, but it's not completely focused on that time of the year. It has everybody from Clint Howard to literally no one you've ever heard of in your entire life in this movie. Clint Howard brings a very bizarre, weird performance. There's a lot of focus on body horror in Initiation. Initiation can have some highlights in there, and I said that in my review. It's a very slow, boring movie. I will say that part. The witchcraft thing is very interesting as an angle. I actually like a lot of the stuff involved here with that. But again, the special effects and the body horror stuff are my biggest draw to this movie. Body horror gets to me more than anything out there. It makes me so uneasy. It's one of the reasons I can't really watch the Jeff Goldblum Fly flick. I'm not even a fan of it. I don't even think it's scary. It's so gross that it makes me genuinely nauseous. And there's not many movies that can do that. There are films that make me uneasy, like Rob Zombie's Halloween. It's not because it's scary, it's just for some reason it's so trashy that it makes me sick deep down. But Initiation has that same effect of making me feel uneasy, but the body horror is what keeps me going throughout this movie. It's a very dreamlike film, and I love that about it. The performances are pretty solid for the most part. Not amazing, there are a couple of bad ones here and there, but for the most part it's got some decent performances. But that body horror though, dude. Special effects, those practical effects kill. They are fantastic. The practical effects are phenomenal in this, and it's worth watching just because of that alone. It has some pluses in there. I enjoy a chunk of it. I know it's a very controversial opinion because most people immediately just crap on all of the sequels pretty much. I think some of the sequels are better than the original flick, and this is one of them that I think has aspects that are better than the overall original movie, even though I put the original above this. But overall, you know, it's an interesting movie. It's not amazing. It's not even really what I would consider like a good movie. It's just different. It's very artistic. And like I said earlier in the video, this is the one that I consider a very David Lynch type of experience. I love that about it. It's fun in that respect for me because I like art house horror, like Antrim, like Eraserhead, stuff like that appeals to me quite a bit. So anyway, that's my number 4 pick. My number pick, or let me try that again. My third pick for the series is Silent Night, Deadly Night, the original 1984 flick. Of course, like I said, I've only seen the unrated. I keep trying to mention that to make sure you understand I've never seen the original, nor do I plan on it unless it just happens one random Christmas. I don't know. But the original unrated flick, it's a little bit of a mess just because every time you show footage of new gore kills and stuff that were kind of lost and brought back in, they can only clean it up so much. So the film will go from an HD quality to like a VHS tape. And I love VHS tapes, but it does that. And the change in quality over and over again makes you, it jars you a little bit, I'll be honest with you. This original movie, to me, the reason it's ranking so low, I'm not a big fan of it, like I said. I'm not obsessed with it. I don't think it has that much charm to it the way everybody else seems to think it does. I don't think it's a classic by any means, even though it has some classic moments. It's not what people make it out to be. And when I saw this for the first time like 3 years ago when I bought all these movies, I was kind of shocked by how much people love this flick. I don't get it. I genuinely don't get the love for it. It doesn't have that 1980s appeal of everything having neon the way Stranger Things and all these other films like The Guest try to make the 80s style feel. I like the throwback style more than I like a lot of 1980s aesthetic for movies that came out of the 1980s. And this is one of those films that I don't think it's horribly aged, but there's also nothing extremely special in here that's worth raving over. The kills aren't that amazing. There's some cool ones here and there. There's a performance from the grandfather at the beginning of this movie that is absolutely terrifying, and I love how they even do that in the remake, that same exact scene. Well, not exact scene, but something kind of like it. It's not a clever movie the way the remake is clever. It's not creative the way parts 4 and 5 are creative. It's just a bland slasher. It was controversial, and I think that's the only reason people love this and hold it in such high regard. I'm sure it has its fans for its own reason. I know there are people who like exclusively love slasher and nothing else from the horror genre, and I get that. And if you're that kind of person, this will be the movie for you. But for me, it has nothing about it that really appeals to me. I do like Billy as a character. I think Billy is a great character. I like watching him do things. Performance is good from him too. The one nun in here, the good nun, she is good. Mother Superior's actress is phenomenal in here, even though she's a horrible, horrible person to have to deal with or watch. The way that character works, she's just a mean-spirited old lady. But the actress brought a lot to that role. It has its pluses. It's just not amazing. It's not a classic for me. Not like Krampus. Not like some of the films in this series that I'm going to rank above this. Anyway, the original is my pick for number 3. Alright, now, going on to number 2. This one is going to be the remake from 2012. Now, I said in some of my reviews, I've only seen this film one other time until today. And I will say this, I thought for sure that the remake would be the number 1 spot on my list of ranking. And as I watched it this time around, I realized this is one of those movies that are better when you watch it with friends or family or whatever. My mom and I watched this for the first time together about 3-4 years ago. We had a blast. We're both gore hounds. We both love slashers. We had an absolute blast watching this together. Watching it this time by myself, I don't know if it's just because I'm having a recent hard time in my life with some things going on around planning Christmas and whatnot. It's always like this around this time of the year. Very stressful times. Planning stuff, trying to go shopping, trying to get things ready, wrapping presents, all that stuff. It's a pretty stressful time. So for me, as I deal with those things, I kind of get distracted and don't want to watch certain things. So I don't think I was in the right mood for this time around, but I did watch it and I had a good time. I just didn't have as good of a time as I had last time I watched this for the first time. This was a great, well-made flick. It has some great moments in here, some great throwbacks and love for the original 2 films. As I said in my review, Stephen Miller, who directed this, very clearly, very, very clearly is a fan of the original 2 films. There's so many great references to them in this movie. The killer Santa Claus is not named Billy. I know that pisses a lot of people off. I actually don't mind it because I like how this could technically just be part 6 of the series. They all kind of do their own individual thing for the most part, their own unique thing in the series. This is no different. You just have a killer Santa Claus that's not named Billy this time around. I actually think this guy's more deadly than what Billy was in the original, or Ricky in part 2. This is a very well-made, lovable sequel that has, or a remake, whatever you want to call this. This has a lot going for it. I think the acting is good all around. There's some great moments in here, some heartfelt moments even. The gore is phenomenal. It's the best gore and the best killing in the entire franchise, even compared to the original in my opinion. I think the original has nothing on this movie at all. I think it's a complete improvement in my opinion on everything about the original movie that I didn't like. It's phenomenal. It's really great, but it does have that modern-day straight-to-video feel to it, which can harm a lot of viewers' experience with it. It doesn't really bother me all that much, because I'm not hard to please, dude. As long as a movie is actually good and entertaining, I don't really care. This is creative. It has some creative kills. The gore and practical effects are fantastic, in my opinion. I don't think there's almost any CGI except for a couple of small things in here that impressed me, because there's not many remakes that have like pretty much no CGI at all in them. This is very well made. This is made by a fan. This is very clearly for the fans who enjoy the series. I don't understand anybody how they could not like this. It would surprise me if people said that. That's pretty much my pick for number 2. A really good flick. Just kind of went down in the rankings for me this time around watching it today. It didn't land the way it did the first time. I don't know if it's because I already knew it was going to happen or what, but it didn't hit that sweet spot that it did the first time I watched it. I thought for sure this was going to be the top of my ranking, for sure. Now, my number 1 pick. It's going to be very controversial, I have a feeling. My boy Grayson the Goosebumps Kid may or may not agree with me on this. Check out his channel too if you want to. Good friend of mine. Number 1 spot on the ranking list for Silent Night, Deadly Night. I did not think it was going to go this route, but I genuinely love this movie. And I had a better time watching this, even though I've had a rough time, been in a rough mood the last few days, or last 4 or 5 days. Even though I went into this not really being excited after the slowness of Part 4 and the complete horribleness of Part 3 and the roughness of Part 2 and the decency of Part 1 over the recent weeks, I was not excited to watch this, but I did rewatch The Toy Maker, Part 5, and I had a blast. If you saw my review for that, you saw how goofy and giddy I was for 16 minutes in a row talking about this movie. For whatever reason, The Toy Maker, the 1991 pretty much final, something like that, of the series for like 20 years until the remake. For whatever reason, this one didn't get any add-ons to the series. They never made a Part 6 until the remake, which could basically be Part 6. They never made a sequel or anything after this movie, after how fun and crazy and wild this movie was. Part 5, to me, just has something shining about it. I think from now on, I'll make it a tradition, even though I already have too much to watch at Christmas time anyway. Depending on how I feel next year, I may or may not make it a tradition to watch Part 5 every Christmas now, because it's one of those movies that it just worked so well for me. When I watched this yesterday, I had such a blast. I had so much fun. Everything from the amazing practical effects and special effects done by is it Screaming Mad George or is it Mad Screaming George? Whatever his name is. The very classical special effects guy. It just works in every way. I love the killer toy aspect. Mickey Rooney, the hypocrite himself, came right back up in here and he became the star of the flick. He has a solid performance. The best performance in here is the guy that plays his son. His name Pino, but, you know, Mickey Rooney's name is also Joe Petto, as in, you know, but also as in Geppetto. This weird Pinocchio Geppetto thing in here, that's fun. The finale is completely shocking. There's a twist in here that's great, but the finale is genuinely shocking. It actually horrifies me. It's not even a body horror type of thing. It kind of is, but it's kind of not. I think it's a shocking flick. It has so much going for it. So much weirdness and zaniness and craziness. The killer toys thing are phenomenal. They're creatively well made. The kills are good in here. There's not really a whole lot of gore or anything in here either, but there's just some really creative ways to kill people in this movie, and I love it. Yes, it feels like a straight-to-video movie. Yes, it feels like a very low-budget flick, but man, was it a pack and a punch. Even this time around. This is the second time I watched it, and I absolutely loved it. It just knocked my socks off, man. I had a blast with it. I enjoyed the crap out of Part 5. I am surprised by how, even though I was so put off about watching this after Part 4 recently, then when I watched, as soon as I put this in, I got sucked right back into it, just like I did the first time I watched it, and it was a blast. I recommend it highly, even if you don't watch the rest of these movies. This is free to watch on Tubi right now, I believe. I think most of these movies are, but particularly this one. Just hunt this one down, go watch this one. Even if you're not a fan of the series, this one stands completely on its own. It's a unique movie. There's some references in here to the previous movies, which is cool. They show some love in there. But it's not like amazing. It's not like a scary movie. It's not like a perfect movie by any means. It just is such a weird, oddball movie to make, and I love every second of it. It's a hack, weird flick. It's got some humor in here that works really well. It's got some totally, genuinely creepy things in here, especially that performance from Pino, the son of Mickey Rooney in this flick, which is like the highlight of the movie in my opinion. It's a wild flick. It's got some heart to it. It feels like an 80s movie. I love it. It's probably not supposed to be a Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 5. It's probably like a Hellraiser situation, and kind of what I consider about Part 4, Initiation, where it's probably not supposed to be a Hellraiser flick or a Silent Night, Deadly Night flick in this particular case. And it just got the title about halfway through the making of the movie or something. I don't know. But I love it. I genuinely love it. It works in every possible way, in my opinion. I just have a blast every time I watched it. Even to be in a bad mood and watch this, it put me in a better mood. Gave me a better day the other day from watching this. So anyway, that is my #1 spot, which is Part 5, The Toy Maker. What are your rankings down in the comment section down below about these Silent Night, Deadly Night flicks? Do you love these? Do you hate them? Again, I'm not the biggest franchise fan. Well, the biggest fan of this franchise. I get all my words mixed up today, man. It's been a weird week. I'm not the biggest fan of this franchise, as you can tell. I'm not obsessed with them. I don't hate them by any means. Some of them I do. But I can find something at least unique and enjoyable about each of the individual movies in their own little way, their own special little way. But some of them, like the original. I'm surprised that I don't consider like the best of the best the way everybody else does. I would love to hear the rest of the community's excitement and feelings and reviews and all that down in the comment sections of either each video or in this particular one down in the comments, because I just want to hear your rankings and hear what other people think about it. Grayson, I'm looking at you. Please put your comment down below because I want to know what you're going to put for your ranking on these. Anyway, that's my rating or ranking for the Silent Night, Deadly Night films. I know that even if I rated some of them higher than others when it came to like the 5-star scale at the end of those reviews, I kind of still consider my enjoyability factor varying, you know, no matter how high I rate something else over top of another film. So if some of these don't make any sense on why the ratings are different from the ranking, that's why. I just want to clear that up real quick, just in case it actually mattered to anyone on the planet. It's harder to rank things, though, with like Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff. That would be more difficult. That's going to be a difficult list one day, God willing, if I ever get to make that next year. Even so, what are your thoughts on Silent Night, Deadly Night? Put all that down in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching. Merry Christmas. I'm not sure if I'll be able to review Krampus by the end of this year, before Christmas at least. We may see. If I don't talk about it this year, I will probably talk about it next year. I don't know. Same thing with the Black Christmas movies. I want to talk about all 3 of those. 2 of them I haven't even seen yet. I've only seen the original one time. So anyway, what are your thoughts? Put them down below, guys. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Once again, Merry Christmas, and put your comments on ranking and stuff down below. Let me know your favorite and your least favorite. I hope 3 is at the bottom of everybody's list, because that's like the definitive bad one for me, personally. Anyway, goodbye.